Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Hope you're well too.
I am well. Thank you for asking. Thank you so much for being here this morning and for allowing us to share in your successes and your journey.
Thank you for having me.
Girls who code. I've always heard about girls who code, and today I'm sitting here with one, and I'm so intrigued and amazed by your journey. Please give us a little dose of what it takes to be a girl who codes.
It just first takes interest and curiosity. So that is how it started for me. I played a game called Pac-Man. I really liked the game, but I wanted to change it. And so I was told that I had to study computer science or learn how to code. What is interesting is from the time that I had the desire, it was only, and that was around 12 years old, it was only in university that I actually started learning anything about coding. And for me, that's sad because I could have done so much more in that time period. But, at the time, it wasn't very popular in Ghana. So it took me going into university because there were no programs that were teaching coding for if you're not in university. So it took me going to university to start. And it was a journey of a lot of failings and learnings, because once you want to go into a male-dominated space, you really have to be prepared for a lot of people telling you it's difficult, you can't make it. You have to be prepared for your own inner voice that may discourage you, that may tell you, it's going to be difficult, this is going to be hard. You have to be prepared for the hard work that it takes to make it. Because I failed my first class, I had to learn and had to start coding day and night to catch up, to be able to get comfortable coding. So it didn't even just come naturally to me. I wasn't I'm a natural coder. No, it took a lot of hard work till I fell in love with it.
Now, was there a moment where you knew very comfortably after failing and trying and failing and trying, that said, this is really what I want to do, and I have what it takes, and it doesn't matter what happens, I am comfortable enough to know that I can be an expert at what I'm doing?
I would say yes. After my initial hurdles, once I started to get very good at coding and I started to get very good in my different classes, like my calculus class and all of that, I began to recognize and see patterns, and I was able to solve problems using my code in a very efficient way. So I realized that I had now adapted and learned really how to use my skill set, and it started to come natural to me, So I had started to enjoy coding. I started to be able to relate to different programs within coding. And so from that initial fail, get up, I found a steady course. What is interesting is, as you go higher in the space, just like with everything, there are different challenges, and it is up to your mindset. So if you have the mindset that no matter what happens, I'm going to keep going, then if you are even on the path to making a mistake or failing, you just see that as an additional learning experience and you keep it moving. And so when I would advance in the course and I would find even more difficult spaces, I was now at the mindset that no matter what, I'm going to keep going. And so when it seemed like I was even failing, it appeared to me that I was learning and I was going to use that learning to do something better. So my mindset even changed around what is failure. Failure for me is just extra learning. And I feel that I'm coming into the game with extra information that you may not have had because you didn't have that experience that I had.
I am trying to understand who would have nurtured this desire to continue in that path.
The two key influences in my life are my parents, right? My parents recognized early on that I was different. My mother would always say that I talked a lot, and people would always say, why don't you tell your daughter to keep quiet? She's always talking. And my mother would say, no, let her talk. You never know when she says something important, right? And my dad would always push and encourage us. It was my dad who brought home the first computer into our household. And when I said I wanted to do computer science, he was all for it. Yeah. My parents really never clipped my wings or my ambitions. Like, I would come and say, I want to do this. And they were like always encouraging me, always, pushing me on. Even when we went to HCS University and I was in the first class of HCS when the university started. So the two main people have been my parents. I think without them, I wouldn't be the woman I am today.
Oh, we're thankful that they would encourage you on to do that. Now, can you take us back to how the decision to be in a school like Holy Child came about, and what role Holy Child School would have played at all in this beautiful story of yours?
So my cousin went to Holy Child. So early on, I always, wanted to go to Holy Child. And I remember, the two top girls' schools, Wesley Girls and Holy Child. But because my cousin went to Holy Child, I'd heard a lot about Holy Child, and it's a Catholic institution, and I'm Catholic. So I wanted to go to a Catholic senior secondary school. So I remember at the time, you had to go to the school to see if you were selected. I mean, now we have computer placement, but then you had to go up the hill to see if your name was there. And I remember, I drove up the hill with my best friend to check if we both made it. We held our breath as we searched for our names. And when I saw my name, I was beyond excited. I was so happy. I got into Holy Child. I got my course. I wanted to do science. I was so excited. And when I went into Holy Child, it was quite an experience for me, because this was the first time that I had come to meet girls from different backgrounds. And it was the first time I was in an all-girls school. And I soon realized how comforting it is to be amongst, other women. I also realized a lot of the things I could learn from all the different ladies, and also the structure and the discipline. Because I wasn't living in a very structured way, so I remember I had to learn, you must be at prep at a certain time, do your washing at a certain time, make sure your uniform is ironed, make sure your bed is laid. So all those principles, of just how you live your life in a particular way was really key and important. In Holy Child, I excelled academically. So I think for me, that even opened more opportunities, because it was Holy Child that I got the opportunity to do several things outside of just learning. So I took part in a couple of competitions. I was also an athlete. I actually ran intercorps and super zonals, and we broke the record. We made it into the newspaper. I was in the 4x100 relay.
Wow. I was a sprinter.
Yes, I was a sprinter. And I mean, even mixing sports and academics as well as social, right? Because I also had to learn, how to make friends. There were several clubs. There was the Debaters Club. I was also in the Debaters Club. So Holy Child gave me the opportunity to explore different talents that I had, right? And to go through this process of self-discovery, which was guided and aided, and then sometimes given that push, right? So there were some things that initially were presented to me and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. But the teachers believe in you. They want you to do it. A big piece was when I came back. So I did a year exchange in Norway. So I did Holy Child for just a year, and I left Form 2 first term. And I came back just at the end to write WASI. It was a difficult period, but in as much as Holy Child wanted me to repeat and then write it again, there were also some teachers that, once I'd made the decision that I was going to write WASI, were helping me, to be able to catch up. It was really that push, that guidance, Holy Child, that community that helped shape me both academically, emotionally, physically, and just my sense as a woman.
Mm. Now, what would that trip that you talked about do to this story? What did you do in Norway exactly?
So Norway was an exchange experience with AFS, and in Norway, I would get the experience to interact with an exchange family and also go to school. Okay. Now, in Norway, there were a couple of things that really changed my life. The first one was Norway is the polar opposite of Ghana, right? It's cold, their way of life is different, their activities is different. I learned a different way of approaching things, and the approach is more geared towards critical thinking and problem solving. So I'll give you an example. Okay. In my school, we would have like events in the auditorium, and then before we needed to clear chairs. Yeah. In Holy Child, for example, when we need to clear chairs, maybe we'll get all the Form 1s to come, we go in rows, everybody will carry 2 chairs, take it out. And so during the time that they were supposed to clear the chairs, I was expecting that would happen. But then this janitor comes in with this gadget. It was just like, it was on wheels. It had like, and then he just stacked the chairs, put it on it, and wheeled it out. I have to say, I'm shocked. Just look at how, instead of manpower, they had a very simple thing to just move the chairs out. And within a few minutes, the chairs were gone. When maybe with us, it took us a very long time to organize people's come and take chairs. So I saw that maybe you would really have to think through a problem and look at what are the resources that you can use. The other thing that I found was in my class, because I also took a science class in Norway, I struggled with, problem solving. So the challenge is, you have to do a lot to pass exams, right? So you are just sort of learning to pass your exams. And we were used to memorizing stuff, right? Either you memorize past questions or you memorize formulas. So when it came to breaking down information so that you truly understand what it means and how it relates to everyday things. So osmosis is the flow of water from an upward motion to a downward motion. What does it mean? I realized also then that I needed to really ask more questions. I needed to dig deeper and get an understanding and go past just memorizing information and then putting it into practice. So when I came back, actually, I started to question things more, and I started to ask like deeper questions and try and practicalize things and try and take information and break it down in a way that I could use it for something in my life. So those were like 2 key things that really, helped shape my way of thinking.
Here is a young woman who learns how to code. And now you're thinking, how do I develop other young children or young girls to code like me? Can you tell me how that dream comes about and how that dream actually becomes a reality?
So for me, I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. My pathway to success is what I knew, which was you find a job and then you rise through the ranks. When I entered into corporate after university, I worked in 2 international banks. I was the only female in the IT department. And in both banks at the time, in one bank, I was only software developer. So I faced a lot of discrimination, sexism, stereotyping, and you name it. I was never what you would expect when somebody introduced me as a software developer. I mean, people would always, and even now I still get the 5-second shock reaction. And when I come in as a tech CEO, people are like, oh, you're not what I expected. I don't know what they're expecting, but it's never me. And so for me, in as much as I saw the challenges, I also saw the opportunity because I was economically independent when I was in university. When I got my first job, I was now able to take care of myself because the field pays well, right? But because I was also very shy and reserved, I was a risk-averse individual. I didn't like speaking out in public. I didn't like stepping out of my comfort zone, I was just quiet and shy, So for me also, I thought entrepreneurs are born and not made. I thought that they are individuals that have a certain charisma, a certain, characteristic or je ne sais quoi about them. Like, you either have it or you don't. And I didn't have any of that, I was just like, ish.
I think
So
you do.
So when I started thinking about, wanting to start something for myself, and work towards social impact, it took a while. Now, what pushed me was an event that happened while I was working in the bank. I got the opportunity to interview at Microsoft, right? So I was flown from Ghana and I went to Seattle to do the interview.
Yes.
When I was at Microsoft doing the interview, now the Microsoft interview is a whole day interview that tests your mental, physical, emotional, any third senses that you have somewhere, test everything. Right? And while I was there waiting, in the waiting room, there was a table, and it was a touch screen table. It was the first time I'd seen that. And with the touch screen table, you could actually touch the screen if you wanted news. You could touch the screen if you wanted to change the top to an aquarium. You could touch the screen if you want. I was just blown up. As I was sitting there watching this table that you could have an experience with, I asked myself, so when in Ghana can we create such things? Here people are even creating tables that you can engage with,
Yes.
So I came back like, no, we are too far behind. And when are we going to develop our human capital and our human resource such that we change the single story narrative? We don't just rely on somebody else to solve our own problems. We can solve our own problems if we have the right tools and skills. So I came back even more determined to start something and now implement that change I wanted to see. It took me a while though, because I kept telling myself, oh, you're not ready, you can't do this. So the day that I resigned, I didn't know that I was going to resign when I went to work. Because, it's not easy to resign. You don't know what's going to happen. And then I started to think what I wanted to do. And for me, it was really, I wanted to work towards social change. But I didn't like how NGOs operated in Ghana because they relied solely on donor funding. And also because of my personality, I didn't know how to start. How am I going to ask somebody for money and all of that? So I decided that what I wanted to do was have a for-profit business where I would generate revenue and use my revenue to run my non-for-profit endeavors. So that's how I started. I started off building software for small and medium scale enterprises and then some large corporates. And then I would use my profits to run, pilot programs in the rural areas, teaching young people how to do science and technology in a more practical way. So it actually even started with science and technology. So my first program was called Growing STEM, Growing Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Skills. And then I narrowed it down because in all the engagements, the girls didn't participate. It was just the boys. As soon as the laptops came, the boys rushed. The girls were sitting in the back somewhere. And in one session, a boy and a girl comes. The boy tells the girl, laptops are not for girls. And the girl says, but I am a girl because I had the laptop. So then I realized that I could do so much more, introducing young girls to role models in technology and teaching them, how to code. And then the last piece of that is when I first thought about what to do, there were so many programs at the time that taught young people how to consume technology. So how to use Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word. Coding was like, nothing like that was happening. And so when I felt that because my approach was towards problem solving. So I said, it's better you learn how to create than just how to use, because the how to use goes back to you relying on somebody else to create so that you use it. So my approach was more, how do we teach young people how to create technology? How do we teach young women and girls who were very marginalized in the space so that we don't lose the female perspective in technology, how to create technology? And so that's why I went on the angle of coding instead of just maybe teaching how to use different technology tools.
What an inspiring story. Like, I'm looking at you. How do you find that strong voice and continue to maintain that voice and not crumble?
You've asked a very good question. There are lots of hurdles. Apart from the gender piece, is even being in a country like Ghana, where things operate in a certain way, and sometimes there's a lack of structure or corruption or different things happening. For me, the first thing is, like you said, my faith grounds me. There's a biblical quotation that I hold dear to my heart, which says, to him much is given, much is expected. And I believe that, you know, I have been afforded several different opportunities, and it is my responsibility to make sure that I also open the door the same way other women before us made sacrifices and opened doors for us to live the way we live today. Because there have been several struggles to allow, especially women and girls, to do certain things. I mean, a couple of years ago, this could not be happening, right?
No.
And for me, I feel that it is generally the calling that I have to do that. When it comes to navigating the space and how do I overcome the different challenges and hurdles, it is just that constant passion and, you know, that allowing myself to also feel and go through things, right? So I break down. It's not a perfect, you know, it's not like I'm always confident. There are moments where it gets overwhelming. There are moments of doubt. There are moments of despair. There are moments where I ask myself, could there be something else? You know, and there are moments where maybe I was expecting something to happen and it didn't happen the way I was expecting, or I was disappointed.
Yeah.
The number of no's that I have received are more than the yeses, right?
Wow.
But at the end of the day, I believe that I can make a difference. And I am seeing that change happening day in and day out, you know, with the effort that I've put in with my team. What we've been able to accomplish in a short period of time is mind-blowing. What I have been able to accomplish as an individual is mind-blowing. So that encourages me to keep going. Each time I hear no, I take it in and say, okay, fine. Where can I get my next yes? And then I go on and look for my next yes. When I need a moment to cry, I do, because I'm a human being and it's fine. You know, I tell people it's okay. You don't always have to be a superwoman. I've learned to ask for help. It took me a while to learn that. I've learned to ask for help. You know, I've learned to be vulnerable when I need to be vulnerable. I've learned to be strong when I need to be strong. I've learned to be confident when I need to be confident. But most importantly, I'm going through this pathway and I'm experiencing everything that goes in with it. I'm not trying to be something I'm not. So I'm living my genuine, authentic self, whatever happens, you know. So that also just gives me comfort and peace, because I'm walking my path as I am, unapologetic, you know, not trying to put up any appearance and, you know, giving everything my all. And I think at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, that win or lose, you gave it your all.
Now, I want to wrap this interview up, but I also want to ask one important question. I know the Academy, Suronko Academy, initially started to train girls, and now you've added boys. I'm happy boys can come too, but I'm wondering what that can also do to the same conversation we're having, where, we know how girls are, we easily crumble sometimes under pressure, especially when the boys are around. How are you able to ensure that we are able to keep the girls focused on a path like yours without feeling that the boys are here to take over?
So we develop confident women at the academy, right? And we start with, women-only groups or classes with women and girls only, even before we introduce boys into these groups. And even for classes that they have both boys and girls, we teach the girls that, look, you can do anything that the boys can do. It's the boys that have to get used to seeing empowered women. So I think if the boys come here, they have to orient their minds to like, hey, these women are, and we do that through a series of, we have e-counseling. So we actually work on mental health here also, as we work on the soft skills. And we have a transition stage. So the women that we train, they actually run a business solutions center, and the profits from that center helps to train more women and girls for free. And we have opportunities network that we connect the women to different opportunities for remote work, for in-person work. So we are positioning the women to be confident and to also be able to use those skills. So even when the boys come, it's not a problem, and we're training them that we want that diversity. So we want men and boys to be able to work. I mean, women and boys to be able to work together. And so we prepare them that it's fine, find your voice. Once you find your voice, don't let anybody silence it.
If there is one thing that makes you proud, what would that thing be?
Wow, that is a difficult question, because there have been several moments where I have been so proud. Like, I started off wanting to train one girl. Now we are approaching 20,000 girls, women and girls across the country, and we've expanded to Burkina Faso. And I think the thing I'm most proud of is that I keep going. I think the reason that that makes me proud is we are now in a very materialistic world where a lot of people question me and my path. Like, they will say, oh, but you're a young lady, why don't you, you could be consulting in a for-profit business, you could be making millions here, I've been offered different positions to do different things, but I still stay in my path. This is, and it's not an easy one, right? We do national tours, so I have to go into remote areas to meet women, in hard to reach, and that involves stepping out of my own comfort zone to go into places. Next week, I'm also going into another far place. So I think the thing I'm most proud of is, against being in a world where success is probably measured by a lot of materialistic things or a lot of self, I still remain grounded to my purpose. And I still find joy in going down to the ground, meeting women and trying to help them wherever they are. And I still find joy in continuing to do what I do. So I think that's what I'm most proud of, that I haven't left and I'm still in the space and I'm still happy to be in the space.
Thank you so much, Regina. I am left speechless with your story and your journey. I am so grateful for the people who have impacted your life. So today you can sit here and share this amazing story with us. I'm most especially grateful for your parents, all right, for raising such a strong woman, for anything that Holy Child would have contributed to it, or anyone who has been in your path and has contributed to this beautiful story. Thank you. And so we look forward to seeing more of you, because I know you are not only going to be heard, but you're also going to be seen. This is such an amazing story. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to share. And I just wanted to say to all the audience, to women and girls out there, that, the only thing that is impossible is the limits you place on yourself. And I'm a living testimony that anything is possible once you want it and you will it, because my life and my journey has started from being a local Ghanaian girl to having global influence, right here in Ghana. So you can be living in Ghana as a Ghanaian girl and your dreams can extend, your impact can extend everywhere. So I would encourage everybody listening, especially the young girls, that, don't give up on yourself, don't limit yourself, and keep pushing yourself and dream big.
Amazing. Thank you for your words of wisdom. We wish you well and we will be following along. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.